How Birds Are Used to Reveal the Future is by Felice Wyndham, researcher in ethnobiology and linguistics, University of Oxford. People around the world and throughout history have used birds to think about and predict the future. In Wales, the call of an early arriving cuckoo in the spring foretells a good crop of hay later in the year. For Aymara speakers in the South American Andes, seeing a yellow-headed vulture is good luck, while spotting a black vulture is bad. In the Kalahari of southern Africa, Xo hunters carefully watch the black-faced babblers after an antelope hunt for signs of where their wounded prey may be. Of all the ecological knowledge people around the world use in their day-to-day lives, an awareness of birds and bird behavior is among the most ubiquitous. Karen Park and I explored this phenomenon in our research, listened carefully to birds. Comparing reports from 6 continents, we found that people from diverse communities pay attention to particular birds and what they reveal about the world around us, from approaching weather to illness, mortality, and the supernatural. We looked at more than 500 accounts in 123 languages of how birds are read in this way. Perhaps unsurprisingly, owls were the most commonly cited bird as signs or omens, and were usually related to death, ghosts, or fear, but occasionally to something more positive, such as the beginning of summer. People also were found to commonly look at crows, cuckoos, woodpeckers, herons, eagles, nightjars, and chickens for signs, but many other species also play a similar role. Half of all bird signs were heard, and that is, they related to birds, calls, or song. For example, in Ayoreo communities in northern Paraguay, the calls of the Te plovers and lapwings signal the drying of the landscape after a flood. Visual signs interpreted from the flight or other behavior of a bird meanwhile accounted for a quarter of the total. This intimate knowledge of what birds can tell us is also often reflected in the names given to them. For example, Arandic speakers in Australia call a type of cuckoo the bush banana yeller in their language because its call brings the rain up the waterways, heralding the ripening of bush bananas. Many more bird signs and multilingual names can be found on the recently launched Ornitho World Atlas, an online collection of bird knowledge and a space for collaboration between researchers and the communities where they work. And reading birds, in many cases, the reading of birds is related to a sophisticated understanding of ecological relationship. Black-faced babblers lead hunters to a wounded antelope, for example, by the way they act and the call they make. Similarly, the Welsh saying about the cuckoo may well be rooted in an awareness of the climate and its impacts on animals and agriculture. The particular weather conditions that prompt cuckoos to migrate from North Africa earlier than usual, for example, may also result in good haying conditions. Other connections may either be lost to history or venture into the unverifiable and the literary. An example is a long-standing practice of European avimancy for telling one's personal or political luck with birds. 2,000 years ago, the Roman statesman and philosopher Cicero belonged to the College of Augury, which interpreted the flights of birds and other auspices for the Roman state, perhaps with a certain amount of skepticism as to just how much the gods were involved. Shakespeare also had Lady Macbeth divulge her murderous plans using the connotation of ravens as messengers of death. The raven himself is horse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan. But ecologists are increasingly documenting the ways that birds are able to predict environmental conditions such as tornadoes by avoiding severe storms on their migration paths, possibly through infrasound perception. Ecologists are also confirming direct communication and cooperation between people and honey guide birds, long known to East African locals, which lead honey hunters to beehives in exchange for the leftovers. Ecoliteracy, knowledge of these ecological indicators by professionals and local people are examples of sophisticated ecoliteracy, the ability to read landscapes, waterscapes, and skyscapes to know what has occurred and thus what may yet occur. As recently as 50 years ago, ecoliteracy was a taken for granted baseline education many around the world experience as an integral part of their informal childhood learning. And today, however, these skills are on the wane in many communities. It's detrimental if we lose specific bits of ecological knowledge, but it is even worse if we stop paying attention to the natural world altogether. More than 1/3 of the bird signs in our sample were reported to be omens, and unfortunately for the recipients, they were mostly bad omens. Omens are signs, usually understood as not coming from a particular entity, that are a feature of humans' propensity for seeking and finding guidance in the world around us. By looking at the spectrum of bird signs, from those strictly based in ecological fact to those related to more supernatural notions of luck and omens, we're able to speculate about how they are related. People everywhere have traditions for knowing the world. Perhaps the skills honed in natural history observation are adapted to the ideas about fate, luck, and destiny as well. We are, after all, constantly to learn from the past and to anticipate the future. From the person who depicted tens of thousands of years ago an owl on the walls of Chauvet Cave in France, to the neighbor I overheard in the cafe talking about how they felt a visiting robin brought them luck, our lives are inextricably intertwined with those of the birds and their beings around us, other beings as well around us. By chronicling these relationships, we can better understand how people have lived in multisensory connections with other worlds, their worlds, and keep that option open for both us and future generations. This is On the Conversation, and it's Creative Commons. And one example of birds used to reveal the future or to help us find something about the future is something that I was thinking about. I was reading this article, is the dove that Noah used to help him find if there was any dry ground after the deluge, after the great flood. And remember that he was using the dove to find out. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.